Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about a little indie movie that premiered at Sundance earlier in January called Your Monster. This movie is directed by Lindy, starring Melissa Barrera, Tommy Dewey, Edmund, Donovan, and Meghann Fahy. And I've been very excited about this film ever since I heard about its run at the Sundance Film Festival. Of course, that festival I've gone to the virtual fest online the past couple of years, so all the in-person ones like A Different Man, which was released recently, and of course now Your Monster were only in person, so I wasn't able to watch it at the time, but I finally watched it tonight with the AMC screen unseen. I was very glad that that was the movie for tonight because this is just a crowd pleaser. I think it won an audience award at Sundance, which is, it makes sense for a movie like this. I think it's a very fun rom-com with a nice, coating of a spooky holiday season, great date night movie for Halloween. And I think this is a great time for this movie to come out, especially for that type of situation. So if you have not seen this movie, definitely go check it out, especially as a date night movie. I think it is a great option for that. And I do want to get into spoilers for it. So if you have not seen the film, go check it out, come back here and let's talk about the movie and especially that ending, because it is very much a Sundance film, which is to say that Sundance movies a lot of time have very, ambiguous or strange endings that kind of make you scratch your head. So what is this film about? Well, essentially it follows Melissa Barrera's character as Laura, who has recently gone through a battle with cancer, and she's slowly awaiting the test results to see if she's in remission or not. But as she was sick, as she was in the hospital, her boyfriend of 5 years broke up with her in a very just messed up move, and she's very much broken by this. She's now completely alone. She has one friend that's very distant and not really the best friend to, be with her in this very lonely and very, tragic time in her life. And she's also lost her dream of, working on this play that her boyfriend had written this role for her specifically. And so in her grief, as she's sitting at home, she encounters a monster in her closet that has apparently been within this home of hers ever since she was a little girl. And they blossom with this nice, interesting, romance of sorts. And it's a very interesting movie that kind of follows this romance, that kind of follows this character's conflict with her ex and how she's still trying to get into this play and how she's trying to fit her life, or piece her life back together by the end of the film. And I think easily the best thing about this movie is the cast. I think Melissa Barrera is a phenomenal actress, and everything that she's in, I'm immediately on board for. She was, of course, in Abigail earlier this year, but of course the Scream movies, she is perfect in these genre type of movies, and I'll never not be upset about, her being fired from Scream 7 because of absolutely ridiculous reasons, but I'm just still very sad that we won't get to see that storyline continue. But either way, Melissa Barrera is always an actress I'm going to see on screen that I'm going to be very happy to see her on screen because she is phenomenal in these type of roles, and she's very different in this role as compared to some of the other roles that she's had, especially in this genre, because she's a very broken character at the beginning of this movie that is constantly crying, that's constantly just at the bottom of the barrel. She has lost everything, and usually her characters are very strong and upfront and very in your face, and this character is very much not that, so it's a nice change of pace for her as a performer. And she's also playing opposite of Tommy Dewey, who plays the monster in this film, and I haven't seen this guy in anything. I think he was recently in Saturday Night, which I've not seen yet here in theaters, but he was great as the monster in this film because he had this charm to him, this, charisma to him that is very likable, that I can see why Melissa Barrera's character would become so attached to this person, especially since she has been so alone in this point in her life. And to have this character that is completely, off the rails, he's messy, he's obnoxious, he's got a softer side to him, which we'll get to in a second here, but he is a monster, and the backstory with this character and the dynamic between these two are phenomenal. I think their chemistry is off the charts in this movie, and that's very much thanks to Lindy's, direction in this film. And the movie does begin with text saying that this is based on a true-ish story, which I'll get into the true-ish aspect of it later on, obviously, because this is a very fantastical movie. Obviously, there's no monster in her closet, at least from what we know of, but, you can really tell that Melissa Barrera's character of Laura is very much based on her real-life experiences. She feels like a very well-rounded character, and the dynamic between her and her ex, I think, is the main aspect that was the true part for this director, was the heartbreak of that, the cruelty of the way that, he broke up with her, especially in this film with the whole cancer storyline in this movie. It is completely just absurd and ridiculous and cruel, and this guy is just the worst person in the world, who was also a great performer in this movie. I really liked how hateable he was. He had a very punchable face, and he does get his due at the end of the film, but it's kind of hard to infer exactly what was true and what wasn't true about this story and what is truly about, at its core, because, Lindy hasn't given a lot of interviews for this movie herself, because I believe she just had a baby, so congratulations to Lindy on being a mother. And, you can watch her introduction of the film at Sundance. You can watch interviews with the cast and the producer talking about her as a director and what she put into this movie, and I think you can kind of infer that maybe she went through a breakup at a point in her life where maybe it was a post-surgery type type of thing like it was in this movie, where it's very just brutal, it's very cruel, and that rage that she got off of that. And there's a lot of films about female rage, especially nowadays, that, you know, get a lot of attention. Of course, there's the audience that immediately dismisses it because they think it's just about women wanting to kill men, which that is absolutely not what films like this is about. And I think the film does a great job at portraying a character who is really learning to stand up for herself for once, because that is what the monster represents about this. It is about her learning to love herself in a way, because this monster, I guess within the world of film, maybe the monster is real, but in our real world, it is a metaphor for her own rage and this ability to learn how to love herself before she loves, you know, these other people that don't really care about her. And I think that is what the film is truly about, especially when you listen about interviews about this film. And I think the movie does a great job at portraying that. Of course, this being a Sundance movie is kind of ambiguous and vague by the ending of the film. That's going to leave a lot of audience members scratching their head. But if you want to know what the film is about, that is what it's about. It's about standing up against that asshole that broke up with her. It's about learning to not hold on to that love and to love yourself first, and then you can move on with your life. And to take this show of his, which, by the way he talked about his show and how pretentious he was about saying that he is the one that's going to be able to tell the story for all these women is absolutely hilarious to me. But for her to get on stage at the end of the film, and also, by the way, the other actress who's, you know, taking over the role of Laurie in this film, to kind of paint her as the villain, the antagonist for the first half of this movie, but then you realize that she was actually kind of a good person. She was on the side of Laura once she found out the truth of what this asshole was doing, and that they weren't pitted against each other. I think that is also a very important aspect of this film. But for Melissa Barrera's character to get on stage and to perform in the way that she sees it instead of the way that he sees it, and for him to spiral because it's not the way that he sees this story, I think is also a very important aspect of it. And of course, you get the very cathartic part about her rage, the monster coming out onto stage and killing this guy in a very gruesome fashion, which is why you make this movie a genre piece. Caroline Lindy could have very easily written a script that was very much based on her real life, and it could have been a very normal drama or comedy of sorts. But if it doesn't have that stylistic flair that she gave, setting it in this fantastical world with this monster and all these, you know, musical numbers in here, and setting it at musical theater, and having this, you know, just fun aspect of this movie to make it as entertaining as it is, I don't think it would be as fun of a movie. But at least that's for me as an audience member. I like watching these genre pieces that have fun with these musical numbers, this romance that they have between Melissa Barrera's character and this monster, and just the overall tone and the story and the comedy here, I think all work really well at, you know, setting the stage for her telling the story about her own rage and putting that on screen in a very entertaining way. I love all that stuff. When it comes to criticisms for this movie, I do think that it is a little bit cliched at times, but of course, you know, it does dodge those cliches, especially when it comes to the actress playing Laurie in the play at first. Obviously, that has a little twist to it. You know, the friend character was kind of, you know, the cliched friend character that would sleep with her ex. All that stuff is very cliched. The actual romance aspects of itself and the structure of this film is very much like a normal rom-com. Obviously, you have Melissa Barrera's character go through a breakup at a sad moment in her life, and then she meets this new guy that she falls in love with, and they go through their, you know, honeymoon phase, and it's all great and everything's all wonderful. And of course, you're going to have the drama about her, you know, sleeping with her ex and kind of relapsing in that sort of way of, you know, reaching out to that past love and having the argument between her and her monster and shutting this monster out once again in her life. And you have that be the low moments at the, you know, end of the second act of this film before she goes on stage and faces and confronts this ex of hers, which brings that monster back out of her. You know, it goes through the normal, I guess, structure of a rom-com, which, you know, is totally fine. This structure works for a reason as long as you do these tropes in an entertaining way that feels, you know, at least fresh with a nice, you know, new coat of painting on it. I think it works totally fine. I do have the poster up for Lisa Frankenstein, which is also one of the AMC Screen Unseens, which, you know, that movie completely surprised me when that came out, and this movie was also equally as fun. Honestly, it'd make a really great double feature. Put on Lisa Frankenstein and then go to the theater and watch your monster and just have a really great date night. I think that's a lot of fun. That duo of movies just kind of had that same tone and feel. I think I do prefer Lisa Frankenstein because I think that movie just has a little more stylistic flair. At least for me personally, I think I related to those characters and like those characters a little bit more than the ones in this film. But when it comes to a director putting her own story in a very stylistic and fun and fantastical way onto a screen, I think that Caroline Lindy's film is wonderful for those aspects. But those are just going to be my thoughts on Your Monster. I'm very curious to what you guys think about this movie in the comment section down below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What was your favorite scene? I honestly really love the musical number at the very end with how it contrasted against the other actress singing the same number like earlier on in the film. I honestly really love the ending and how Sundance it was with how ambiguous it was, and to piece together exactly what the true-ish aspect of this movie was. I love all that stuff, but those are just going to be my thoughts. And if you did enjoy this review, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe to the channel to see more reviews just like this one. I do have a video out talking about all the other movies I saw at Sundance, including A Real Pain, which I believe it has its wide release actually next week. So if you want to hear my thoughts on that movie, it's already in that video, along with, you know, all the other reviews that I'll have here on the channel in the future. So thanks everybody for watching, and hope to see you all in my next one.